Hello again, it's Garson, and if you listen, you can hear the hunger, the hungry Hadars surrounding us in the darkness. Now I'm going to let go of the turn-based mode, and if you'll see here, there's actually 3 instances of Hadar on Lae'zel and Gale and everybody. Ready? So in real time, the turns will pass by. We'll take acid, we'll take cold damage. Watch as the magic unfolds. Kaboom! So, we took multiple instances of cold damage. I didn't realize this, but Hadar stacks. So of course, that's what we're going to talk about, and I'll actually give a little bit of a breakdown. So without further ado, I'm going to break it down, bust out some notes, and we'll dive right into it. Talking about Hadar's Feast. Wait. Hunger of Hadar stacks? I didn't know that. So thanks to you guys, I do know that. We were running 4 different Warlocks. I found out about this, so I want to share you, and a big thank you for watching. Hopefully you find this really helpful. And if you do, if you want to help the channel, it really helps to watch all of this. But if you need to just skip around or you just want to watch what's interesting to you, just use this as a little guide on the side here in the notes. You can just skip around. I made it a little bit easier, all right? But let's talk about hungry Hadars. Of course, let's just jump right into it. I appreciate you guys for watching. So with patch 8 though, I don't actually know. You guys have been asking me. I don't know when this is coming out. I know it seems like it's taken a while. In fact, I've played 3 runs with all 12 new subclasses, right? Including a 4th run. So in my opinion though, you guys have asked, I don't know yet, but I do think it's ready. Other than there was a Bladesong issue, you can see in the top left, this is patch 8 stress test, update 3. Update 3 actually broke the Bladesong subclass a little bit, so maybe they're fixing that. And shout out to the devs, because I know crossplay is probably a tough thing to implement in your game, so thanks for doing that. And I'm sorry that it's taking so long for you guys, but thank you for waiting and watching. And hopefully, what I do know is we've played all the new subclasses. If you want to get excited or don't know what you want to play with the 12 new subclasses, right? Go watch the playlist. I'm going to have 3 different playlists called New Subclasses Only, and I didn't do any multi-classing, so you can see these as I play through Honor Mode with every new subclass, okay? So we're getting back also into answering your questions about patch 8, more specifically patch 8, but any really general questions you guys throw in chat or in the comments, so I really appreciate that. Hopefully I can get back on track with all this stuff, but anyway, on the live stream right now, we're doing a fun all Warlocks, no multi-classing. I'm even playing the new Hexblade again, so if you want to check that out. But it kind of turned into a Hadar stacking run. I didn't know Hadar stacks until Mystica and a few other chat kind of made me realize this. So shout out to Mystica. And of course, shout out to you guys for watching. I appreciate you. And so I don't really know. You guys let me know. I don't think this... Did this not stack before and it stacks now? But I'm probably just a dummy, so it's not anything new. Anyway, for those who aren't familiar with the Hunger Hadar spell, maybe you've never used it, let's talk about Warlock first. Warlocks at level 5 get this access to level 3 spell slots. One of them, somewhat exclusive, but we'll talk about it in a moment, is Hunger Hadar, right? It's a level 3 conjuration spell. It's got a 60-foot casting range, but then it creates this big 30-foot circle, okay? So like 30-foot diameter, but obviously that's a huge amount of area. And what does it do? Well, let me go ahead, pop that back on the screen, right? You're gonna need concentration, but it's a 10-turn spell. So for concentration, just as a reminder, you may wanna watch out for falling prone, which automatically cancels it. And if you do take damage, even if you don't fall prone, you will have to do a Constitution concentration saving throw check, okay? But I'm going to assume you already know that. It's 10 turns, it's an area effect, and it affects all creatures inside. So the intro there, it affected not only Gale, but also my allies, Shadowheart and Lae'zel, but any kind of NPC, any kind of enemy, everybody there gets affected. Now what does it do? It's going to blind you. So real quick, if I jump over, we're not here to talk about blindness except a little bit later, but this is a very powerful effect I've grown to love. I talk about it all the time on my channel. I think it's one of the best conditions you can inflict. So even if you have the Devil Sight from Warlock invocations, right, this would be basically superior dark vision with the ability to see through magical darkness right here. So even if you cast your darkness spell and you can see in it, right? Devil Sight allows me this really powerful offensive and defensive combo to enable like protection from outside projectiles, but also get advantage with say Eldritch Blast, right? Great combo. Now here's the thing. If I cast Hunger of Hadar, I'm still blinded, okay? And you can see that right here. If we look at Gale's condition, hold on. All right. I'm still literally blinded, okay? Now, what else is going on in this, right? It is a difficult terrain, so don't go thinking this is just darkness. I can see through it with Devil Sight. It can literally blind you, your allies, your enemies that have Devil Sight. Most things will get blinded in this, okay? But also, I should mention that there's half movement speed, right? So for instance, Gale here has 30 feet of movement. I'm going to assume Aronson over here and Cuthbert over there, they both have probably 30 feet of movement. I'm smack dab in the middle of it. So if we take 30 feet of movement and you cut it in half, it's now only giving me 15 movement. Let's see if I can get out of here. Nope, I'm stuck here. And that sucks because at the start of your turn, you're guaranteed to take cold damage or anybody else sitting in it. So be careful with that, right? Don't cast it on yourself like I did. And at the end of the turn, if you fail a dexterity saving throw, you will receive even more damage. So at the start, you'll always take cold damage if you or anybody is starting their turn in this. When it starts their turn to move and take actions, they immediately take damage. And if they end their turn there because they couldn't get out of Hunger Hadar, or this idiot just walked in there, likely taking damage, right? They'll take they'll take acid damage at the end of their turn if they fail the saving throw, right? So that's pretty much what the spell does. Just keep in mind, and we'll talk about this, this does not upcast into stronger versions. So you might be even saying ahead of the game, you have level 5 spell slots and you're going to waste it on a level 3 spell. Well, we'll get into it when I go over the power, but let's actually roll back and look at who actually acquires this, right? So obviously we'll start with Warlocks. It is a level 5, so as early as level 5, you don't multi-class, just stay in the Warlock class. You get level 3 spells and level 3 Warlock spell slots. Warlock spell slots, just as a reminder, little unique. You always get 2 per short rest. So at level 5, you'll have 2 level 3 spell slots, and when you short rest, you'll get them back. But as you can see here, I'm level 11 or higher. I actually get 3 spell slots. So just keep that in mind, right? So again, we'll get into why you're going to use this with a level 5 spell slot, but Warlock's obviously getting it earliest out of any option, okay? And then, you know, you can actually replace, maybe you don't need, ironically, Arms of Hadar. You can replace this at level 5, leveling up. You'll get access to this. You could probably just replace that spell if you didn't want to just use your new spell slot. But I digress. Let's move on. So what else can get it? Bards always have this unique ability called Magical Secrets. See, this would be a unique spell to Warlock, except Bards like to steal or use their little magical secrets. At level 10, all Bards can access spells they wouldn't otherwise be able to get, like Spirit Guardians, or maybe Haste, or, of course, Hunger of Hadar, okay? So, the nice thing is, if you go with the subclass Lore Bard, you get to do this twice, and you get to do it earlier the first time. Level 6, you will have access to your level 3 spell slots, right? And you will be able to access the magical secrets early, but only up to level 3 spells, because that's all you can use, level 3 spell slots, okay? So, level 10, all bards are going to have access to this. So, a lot later, so basically, Warlocks and Lore Bards are going to be the ones who can get it around the mid-game, right? And then later on, if you want to add it to your repertoire as a level 10 Bard, you could do that. But there's one more way, which is really interesting, because you can, it's a piece of equipment, which means you can stack it on Warlocks and Bards who already have access to this. Or you could do like I did. This is a monk. They're not about casting at all. They're a punching monk. And yet, if I have access to the legendary Marco Hesh Gear, this comes in Act 3, and if you know where to get it, you can get it really early, just about as soon as you get into the act. Now, you must use the Kareska's Favor and choose the Acid Element option, which has its own buffs, but what's nice is it gives you the spell once per short rest. So what I'll do is pull back the notes real quick so you can actually see this. Now remember, you have to go with the Acid option. Once per short rest, you can change this if you want to. So if you wanted to use Hadar for a specific fight, you would short rest, be able to swap this from, say, Flames of Wrath to Sizzling Cataclysm. Choose this one, and your staff will literally be dripping with acid. And now you get a single cast of Hunger Hadar once per short rest. So if you never change this buff, you just set it off at the beginning of your day, you can actually get, I think, what, 3, maybe even 4 Hadars? Just depends on how you use it, right? So that's actually pretty cool and a nice ability, and you can even add it to the Bard or Warlock for even more additional cast, right? So those are the 3 different ways you're going to be able to access the spell. Let me spit the notes back out. There you go. And then we'll take a look at why it's so powerful. Okay, so now we know how to get it. What about the power? Why are you kind of glazing it a little bit? Okay. Well, think about this, even especially in the context of, say, here's the Bard. They have normal spell slot progression, which means I can only use 3 level 3 spell slots per day, right? And then I'm going to have to start spending 4s, 5s, and even 6 to cast this. I don't know about a 6, but let's say a 4, definitely, right? If you were willing to use a level 4 spell slot, or all your level 3 spell slots for a Bard, that's 6 more casts of this per day. Pretty much in line with a Warlock. A Warlock, before they get to level 11, they're going to be able to cast 2 of them per short rest, so in 3 short rests per day, that's 6. But as you level up the Warlock, you now have level 5 spell slots, and it may feel like, why am I using a level 5 spell to cast a level 3 spell? Okay, so let's take a look at what it actually does. I'll put it up on the screen again. Now remember, you are going to get 10 turns for a single cast, okay, as long as you maintain the concentration. So for a level 3 spell being used with higher slots, and you can use it these ways, right? First off, it does create the difficult terrain I was talking about, right? We'll talk about plant growth in just a moment, but just to keep things simple, half movement, like I said, standard. It's usually 30 feet of movement, so if you bring them down to 15 and you casted it dead in the center of someone, you're going to have probably a whole turn where they can't get out of it, and then you can start incorporating things like repelling blasts where you push them with your Eldritch Blast, or you use a strength character to throw them right back in there. So it gives you also a huge area of control and denial. Let's look at the circle again, right? So if I put this down here, and you can see the circle perimeter like that, right? It means someone like Aronson, when he goes to trying to get me, first off, it's not easy to look through it or attack through it, or if he's in it, he's blinded, right? We'll talk about that. But he's probably going to want to go around the perimeter to come and get me. So that's a huge area of denial. And then there's the threat of throwing them in there. They're kind of stuck in there if I know what I'm doing. And then we can add even more nonsense with plant growth, because while they don't stack the movement penalty, it will give you plant growth's quarter movement, not half movement, making them really stuck in there. Okay, but we'll talk about it in a moment. What about guaranteed damage? And it's actually one of the best types of guaranteed damage. It's cold damage, okay? So remember, at the start of their turn, they're going to take 2d6 cold damage, okay? It's guaranteed as long as they start their turn in there. And remember, if you get them wet with like a bottle of water or rain or something, it's not going to get rid of Hadar. It's not going to affect the cloud in any way, but if they are wet, they will take double cold damage unless they're immune or resistant to it, right? So it's just guaranteed damage, which will play into the stacking effect in a moment. So there's also conditional damage with the acid. If they end their turn, they must make a dexterity saving throw. So you use things like Bane, you'd use things like Reverberation, and if they fail the dexterity saving throw from this, they're like all these debuffs on them, they're going to take even more damage. And acid isn't really one of the most immune or resistant. It's kind of in the middle of the road, but again, it's more damage. You don't really have to do anything, and you're kind of getting a bunch of other good effects like the movement, the cold damage, and then finally the blindness effect. Blindness is stupidly powerful in my opinion. On honor mode, I run it. I love having it on a team. It gives advantage against blind targets, right? So advantage can really bump up your accuracy. I'm at 85 right now. The advantage on a target when I'm sitting here with 85 attack roll, it would likely bring it up to 99%. And the other good thing about blindness is that target now has disadvantage against me and my guys, and they can't use ranged attacks while sitting in there, okay? So you get really good benefits from being blind. And unlike a single darkness cloud blinding everybody, this blinds them, does damage, and it slows them down. And that's really where everything starts coming together. There's few enemies that really are immune to blindness, right? And even the enemies like Raphael and Yurger, whatever, these guys have Devil Sight just like your Warlocks may, but you can't see through it even with Devil Sight, neither can they. So there's very few enemies, maybe the Sharans, that cannot be blinded outright. Plus, if you have the Eversight Ring or some other blindness immunity, you can just see in there whether you want to or not, or like you know, whether it's good or not. But the other cool thing is once it's down, while whoever's in there is blinded, you're not, so you can easily shoot in there and get advantage against them, even if you don't have Devil Sight or blindness immunity. Whoever you're shooting in there, unlike the darkness cloud, you can actually do damage without any kind of like special vision. Okay, so other terrains stack with Hadar, or I should say Hadar stacks with just about everything, and we'll talk about it because it stacks with itself. Okay, it's one of these unique kind of terrains. It's not really a cloud because clouds kind of overlap each other and overwrite each other. Darkness and fart clouds from Cloud Kill, kind of whatever comes last is the new predominant cloud. So if I casted a darkness cloud and someone casted Cloud Kill, it will overlap whatever got casted last, right? So that's a little annoying when you set your terrain up and somebody just puts a new cloud up and totally screws you out. And then there's also things like plant growth and, let's say, firewall, right? These things kind of contradict each other because a firewall will get rid of plant growth and you'll be screwed. But I did mention plant growth earlier, so I want to talk about that, right? Hadar is special because for all of these instances, firewall, thorn wall, plant growth, cloud kill, darkness, okay, if you really wanted to, you could have Hunger of Hadar and you could have a darkness cloud. So I guess I should probably prove that right here. What I'll do is I'll put down a plant growth. This is going to produce quarter movement, so even worse than Hadar's, right? And then we can put a darkness cloud, so now you can't see in it. So those stack because it's a cloud on top of a terrain, but even better than that, Hadar is special because it goes on top of anything. Too bad I can't see in there, okay? But maybe if I just put it off to the side here, there we go, it's kind of stacking. Yeah, sure, do it that way, that's great. Whatever you gotta do, Lazel. Now get the hell out of there. Okay, so in there you can see that we have Hadar, we have the plant growth, quarter movement, and then we have the blindness of the darkness. But I could see in that with, I know it's nonsensical, but I'm just trying to show you clouds, terrains usually have to stay, those stack each other. But another cloud could get rid of my cloud, and another terrain could get rid of my terrain, but nothing gets rid of Hadar. It's pretty unique in that way, and this means you can stack with a variety of effects, which I'm just frankly not here to talk about, and now I'm in trouble, so I'm gonna get this rolled back, okay? So Hadar, though, always stacks, and then it can even stack with itself. Now just remember, with plant growth, movement penalties do not stack, and really the only one that trumps all other movement penalties is plant growth. So if you get the point I'm trying to make here, is use plant growth with this. You can keep people in Hadar for a really long time when all their movement is basically 7 feet. Okay, so what about stacking by itself and why I made this video? So creatures that have multiple instances of the Hadar mean they take all the cold damage at the start of their turn and potentially a lot of acid damage at the end of their turn, right? And the cloud does not get overridden by other Hadar clouds. In fact, no other terrain, again, no other terrain can do what Hadar does. It does not get affected. So let's grab the team over here. Let's like make some nonsense over here and piss a lot of people off. All right, Hadar is very hungry. Okay, so what we're gonna do is throw down one Hadar, then we're gonna throw down another Hadar, and sadly, oh wait, no, we got Shadowheart. That's good. So we can put all 3 Hadars down. Yeah, well, you know, sometimes you get maged, so joke's on them. I have a speed potion. I'm not getting long. Yeah. There we go. Really hungry. Okay, so you can see right there, 1, 2, 3 stacks of this. Now I'm gonna bust out the notes. There we go, and then I'll show you in real time, real quick. Okay, so he starts his turn. He immediately takes 3 instances, right? I didn't know this, and this is actually pretty strong. Cutting words, as long as I didn't lose concentration, and he couldn't finish his turn, so guess what? Now he's got to take acid damage potentially. He starts his turn, he takes it, and so on and so forth, right? So let me go ahead, see if I can keep this maintained. There we go. He gets saved, so he didn't take the acid damage. I'll get the hell out of the Hadar. There we go. Okay. And then he takes cold damage. He's blind, so he can't use his ranged crossbow attack. Couldn't move out of there because of the darkness. It's not like the movement effects are stacking, but it is harder to get out of a single Hadar, and now you're taking all the bonus damage from the multiple Hadars, right? Okay, so look at that. Just taking about almost 20 damage, right? And 20 damage doesn't seem like a lot, but if it's hitting a bunch of characters, they're potentially taking acid damage, they're getting blind, that guy's already dead. I think you can see where I'm going. So I'm going to reload this, and what I'll do now is actually bust out some of my stream. Here we go. I got a clip from the stream here. Let me pop out the window. Sorry if I'm using the little recorder, but okay. Let's get right into the I call this the Sharon staircase race. Whenever we get to this in honor mode, you can see this. This is a real use case of stacking Hadar. I made it sort of like a plus sign. You could stack them all on the same singular spot, but what I was trying to do is make a sort of plus sign you can see right here. And then it became this concentrated zone they must step through to get up the staircase, right? And most likely they're going to at least have 1 or 2 or 3, even 3 turns where they're stuck in that middle taking 4 Hunger of Hadars, okay? And this is where it gets really deadly because they're at the top of a staircase, right? So these factors start adding up. You can abuse with things like freedom of movement, right? So I'll show this in a moment. But in this case, I abused it with a bunch of elementals, because now all my warlocks are level 11. I have a bonus. I have that many more spell slots, and I have the elemental ability. So I have 4 air elementals up here, right? I don't need to see in the blind area in order to use my elemental's area thunder or lightning attack, whatever it is. So you can see me really abusing the blindness zones by going in there. They get just outside of my Hadar zone, and I zap them with an area spell. So that's one way to abuse it. And then you might see a little later what I'm going to use is Eldritch Blast and blast them with Agonizing Blast or Repelling Blast to push them out, right? Let me skip ahead. I'll open the door like a jerk, and now I'm going to try and Eldritch Blast somebody. And so you can just see how easily abusable this is. Oh, you're out of my zone now? Now I'll shoot you with my ranged characters, or I'll push you back with a strength character. So it's just silly and crazy. And this is one of the best use cases for it, because there's a lot of enemies, but you can funnel them all into one spot and then drop this Hadar, hungry Hadar zone, and just absolutely obliterate them or wreck them, right? And then just zap them with their elementals, shoot them with Eldritch Blast. I was a big jerk to these guys, obviously. Okay, so let's put this back. There we go. And so that's kind of going to do it for you. If you actually want to see that run, I'll show you, but just some other things. Like I said, these factors add up. Stacking it was just, I don't know why I just assumed you couldn't do this. So it really changes the game that even a level 3 spell used with a level 5 spell slot, you don't have to run 5 warlocks or 4 warlocks like I did. But there is other ways to acquire this spell by stacking it with other terrains, or even itself. It starts adding up. And one last little caveat here, because bards get it and other classes get it, but you can use the freedom of movement spell. This is a very important one, especially if you have melee characters. What you can do is use the freedom of movement. It lasts all day. Your bard can cast it on themselves or somebody else. And then if you have blindness immunity, like from the ring, the Eversight ring, right? You can run into the cloud. With freedom of movement, there is no movement penalty. With blindness immunity, they're blind, you're not. You can run up, do melee hit and runs, guerrilla warfare, and run out of there, all while they're stuck on a plant growth, quarter movement, and then they're just stuck in the freaking terrain like hating life. Or if you want to combo it like I did with, say, Cloud of Daggers and a Hadar, one Hadar is going to get you all those effects, and then you can start comboing it with other terrain. But I'm just blown away by, like, whoa, 4 Hadars is actually really stupidly strong, and it kind of ruined the run in a good way, because now it's just a hungry Hadars run. But if you want to see that, it's in the Oops All Warlocks run. I can't wait to see you there in the stream. We have way more fun, so come join us. We find out cool things like this, and we see what we can push the limits of honor mode, not to play some OP powerful stuff. Sometimes we do that, sometimes we find that, but it's also to play any character you want, or just stretch the limitations of this game and play wonky stuff like all warlocks, all druids, and all that. So just ask away in the comments and chat. Like I said, I'm getting into patch 8 questions, answering them again, so you can do that too. Otherwise, you guys are my sponsors. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched the whole video, that's the best way to support the channel. But if you had fun, that's the thing that matters the most for me. So get back in there, have some fun, and I'll see you in chat. And there is member support. But otherwise, you have a blessed day.